Good day, fellow Ambazonians. This is Silas at Dateful. Uh, Please permit me to add my opinions and comments to the ongoing discussions in our Ambazonian political environment lately about negotiations, pre-talks, engagements, what have you. These discussions have been going on, and the frenzy on the social media highway has been very intense. Now, I am not particularly concerned that Ambazonians are seeking solutions to the ongoing genocide war that Paul Biya Bimvondo has brought upon us. That is a good thing to seek solution. But in during critical moments like the one we find ourselves in, my concern is about what strategies we are using, and we find ourselves in a position where a lot we are not sure of exactly the we are not trusting of or who is talking for us. We are not sure who is really doing it, and we are not even sure of the capabilities of those who purport to represent us. Not that they may not carry the skills required to do so, but because we have not given ourselves ample time and space to explore our God-given potentials that we find within us. So engaging with anybody at this time uh, without a clear-cut strategy on what is going on seems like a catastrophe in the making for our revolution and for our people. I can understand a situation where the same people who can see eye to eye in broad daylight will go behind closed doors and talk to an enemy in good faith. At a time like this, the only one thing that Ambazonians should press on should be for these leaders to provide for us a strategy. Let's know where they are heading to. You can go. I've heard some of the leaders come online and, in my opinion, rant quite a bit about what they can do and how knowledgeable they are on issues like this. And at the same time, they are doing just exactly the opposite of what they say they are doing. I can remember clearly when Sissikwa Julius Tabi and others were abducted, sorry, in Nera Hotel. All of these same leaders today came out to blow out rumors that President Sissikwa Julius Tabi and others were in Nera Hotel for some backdoor negotiations. This is back then in 2018. We are now in 2019, and all of these same people who said it was such a bad idea to go to Nera Hotel and negotiate for negotiations are doing actually the same thing. And thank God for Mark Barata blowing up the alarm the other day. We are now talking about it. I think this discussion is healthy for our political education, and it's also helpful for the process. I want to remind our leaders that, with all due respect to their knowledge, uh, the international diplomacy scene is not a game for boys. By boys, I'm not talking about age here or anything. I'm talking about maturity. There is a certain maturity that you carry to the international stage. It is a very complex environment. This is to the best of my knowledge that I'm speaking. I know everyone will claim to be aware of all of this international gymnastics and come out to tell you, oh, diplomacy, diplomacy, like I've heard quite a few of our leaders come online to say. And there is this, I like how the Americans view or the international political stage. They see it as a chessboard. So diplomacy or international relations is not a game of interest. It's not a game of sympathy. It is actually a game of moves. That is what chess is. Chess is a game of moves. And if at a certain time you're just rushing with your emotions because you think you want to deliver and you have no strategy, you don't have the moves to take yourself to the finish line, all your kings and queens and even all your pawns will be taken away from you, and you will find yourself empty-handed. I can see a scenario where just the other day we had Eric Tato trying to go protest in public at the White House to say this is the killing of our people is wrong, and a lot of people found that very offensive. But at the same time, we agree that it's okay to go behind the scenes and be discussing with the same enemy, as we have now come to understand that La République is clearly involved in what is now being discussed as the Swiss talks, without the conditions necessary for us to get to this point. Now, in any war scenario, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, in any war scenario for any kind of talks, engagements, negotiations, as the words are being thrown around today, for that to happen, they must, first of all, this should start with, the first stage should be the ceasefire engagement should be made first. If that is the process that we are in, why would other leaders who are not self-defense actors be out there saying that they are the ones negotiating? What are they negotiating or engaging or dialoguing or doing what have you? If at this stage, those who should have the voice in our struggle, the only people who should be talking at this stage in our revolution should be the self-defense actors, trying to find out ways by which La République can halt the ceasefire and withdraw its troops, so that we can now have the level ground for politicians to go in there and strategies to begin to talk strategy, negotiations, and engagements, or all of these discussions. At this stage that we need ceasefire, we need somebody who is a mediator, who announces himself, and then come out to talk to both sides. Some of the conversations that have been going around are really very concerning. I must say to all who are out there purporting themselves to be leaders, I will use that adjective, because on the international stage, all of them, I must say, all of them have not shown the kind of maturity that is needed to be on the world stage. I must say, for the duration of this revolution, leave our early patriots, who all the Palm Force and the Ayambas, who did all what they did before 2016. The only leader who have, in my opinion, risen to the ranks of international diplomacy and maturity of leadership, there is Sisi Kwayu Julius Tabe, President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and I can also salute the moves by Comrade Cho Ayaba of the AGC. He is also that one person that understands how the international politics and the international chessboard is outlined. So some of the moves that he takes and the way he carries himself in the international stage is a lot how world leaders would do. But for the rest of the emotionally driven leaders who will rush to anything and call it just to come and call it success, That is exactly what Ambazonians should be wary of. We don't want a leadership that world leaders will just be looking at them and laughing. We have come to a point where we need to be firm and strong. Negotiations are not done from a position of weakness. Us, you have lost already in advance. I believe some of you who may not have read pages of Donald Trump's Out of the Deal should probably try to do so. I think that's a very good book, a bestseller. There are really some good tricks out there that would help our cause to at this stage where we are. That's just to reference someone who is also contemporary. Now, this is to say that we cannot just be rushing and saying, oh yes, we are negotiating, we are trying to bring solutions. It is a tactic, it is an art, and you need strategies. International politics is a game of moves, or diplomacy. It's a game of moves, and if you don't have your moves, for these leaders to come out here and be criticizing activists, journalists who are questioning the actions of the ongoing scenario are completely wrong. It is the duty of the people. This is also part of the strategy. If only it was coherent and it was all being done in synergy. We will have situations where leaders intentionally walk out of talks even when it's in their favor. They walk out of it to raise the bars. We have a situation now where at this point when these leaders are over there saying they are engaged in negotiation, pre-talks, our people are being, the same time that they are sitting there talking, our people are being slaughtered. Some of them receiving a text message should be able to raise an alarm there and say, we cannot even continue this engagement. This is a deadlock until we see clear proof that this other side who is here is trying to do something to move these discussions forward. That is how things like this do happen. I salute Comrade Chua Ayaba earlier because I learned that he too was invited for these discussions, and he chose not to go because there was no clear documentation to prove that this is where the discussions will go, this is what they are looking for, and this is what they want from the Ambazonian people, or what the discussions was all about. That is how you prepare yourself. That is how you preempt the enemy, raise the bar, and put yourself in a position of strength. On the ground also, that has to happen. So all these discussions that people are saying, defensive attitude, it doesn't help Ambazonia. This is defensive attitude that we are putting, not we, the leaders who are there claiming to represent us, and yet they don't want to hear us speak. This is exactly what is going to drive us through the wrong path. So I want to, at this point, just make a simple submission. My submission to the Ambazonians, and my submission and my plea to Ambazonians and everybody and any person who believes he or she is a leader for Ambazonia. At this stage, please, I urge you all to withdraw from every engagement with that links Ambazonia to the enemy. Tell the international community and whoever is responsible for this activity that you are not satisfied with the arrangement. You will be back on the back door room when the mediator announces himself, and the purpose announces themselves, and the purpose for which they are trying to engage both parties. At least so that we will know the best people to send. Like I said earlier, at this stage of any kind of negotiations, they have to negotiate the ceasefire first. And negotiating a ceasefire is not a business for any Tom, Dick, or Harry. That is not the way it works, and we must follow this and make sure that it works the right way. So once the mediator comes and tells us that they are negotiating a ceasefire, then we will get self-defense actors to come out with proposals and get experts. Even we may have to hire experts to provide for us a strategy. This is not child's play. So for those leaders again, withdraw yourselves from there and call it a deadlock until further terms of discussions are clearly stipulated. Then coming back home, it is from all of what we have seen, fellow Ambazonians, it is very clear that this war is gradually, there are beacons of this war going to a negotiating phase, and we need to have our acts in order. I am pleading that all the different Ambazonian movements, the AGC, the IG1, the IG2, the raw 1 or the raw N and the raw everything, Morris, APLN, all of these movements consortium. This is the time when all of these leaders, Ambazonians, need to push these leaders to hold a leadership conclave. I want to repeat it again. Ambazonians must push our leaders of all this movement. It may not be your leader. You might be alliance to you might be aligned to a particular movement. That is your leader. At this point, fellow Ambazonians, we need a leadership conclave sponsored by every political movement, by every movement of this revolution. Get all of these leaders to sponsor a conclave of leadership. They will meet somewhere, all of them, and have a clear-cut strategy for the liberation of Ambazonia, for this dialogue phase or whatever they see it to be. We will not go there in disorder. That is exactly what the enemy wants. The enemy wants Akwanga to come and sit there and not look at Ayabacho in the eye. The enemy wants Yerima to come and sit there and not look at Sako in the eye. The enemy wants Kometa to come and sit there and be making faces with Yerima or Jonba Akuru or Dinka or any other person. We cannot allow that to happen. And the best way again to stop this and get a clear-cut strategy at this point that we really need it, ladies and gentlemen, I am saying it again. We need a leadership conclave. We need a leadership conclave sponsored by all movements of this revolution. Pay your quotas, and if you need someone to put it together, get any outside personality within the movement, within the revolution, or an apolitical group, or a reputable activist, or a reputable statesman to put that together. I am again making this submission that we need a leadership conclave. That is my conviction. That is how we can get a clear path to a negotiating table. We need it right now. Or else, what is beginning to spill out now as a diversion will come out as a serious catastrophe that we may not be able to handle. My name is Silas Atefo. I'm just looking out for Ambazonia. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you. God bless Ambazonia. Short live the revolution. Long live Ambazonia.